Before there was Bitcoin, before there were blockchains, there was a movement. A group of visionaries who saw both the promise and peril of the digital age before most of us had even connected to the internet. They called themselves the Cypherpunks, and their ideas would go on to shape not just cryptocurrency, but the very nature of privacy, liberty, and power in the information age. Bitcoin materialized from nothing in 2008. When Satoshi Nakamoto published the Bitcoin white paper, it represented the culmination of decades of theoretical work, failed experiments, and philosophical discussions about the nature of money in the digital age. The intellectual soil from which Bitcoin grew was tilled by a loose collective of cryptographers, computer scientists, libertarians, and privacy advocates who had been collaborating since the early 1990s. They recognized that the emerging digital world would create new vulnerabilities for individual freedom and new opportunities to protect it. The development of public key cryptography by Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman, 1976, and RSA by Rivest, Shamir, and Adelman, 1977, creates the mathematical foundation for secure digital communications. The cypherpunks movement is fueled by Eric Hughes, Timothy C. May, and John Gilmore in the San Francisco Bay Area, as they form a company, Cygnus Solutions. In 1991, Phil Zimmermann releases PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, allowing everyday people to encrypt their communications with military-grade security. This triggers a government investigation, as encryption was then considered a munition under export control laws. The cypherpunks were an organized group who communicated primarily through an email list that began in 1992. At its peak, the list had over 2,000 subscribers, with dozens of active participants shaping the conversation. They weren't merely theorists or philosophers, they were bold in practical solutions to the problems they foresighted. The informal motto, "Cypherpunks Write Code," emphasized their commitment to creating actual tools rather than just discussing ideas. What united them was a shared vision, that digital technologies were creating unprecedented capabilities for surveillance and control, whether by governments or corporations. They saw cryptography as the mathematical tool that could rebalance power toward individuals. Eric Hughes, a mathematician and programmer, authored a Cypherpunks Manifesto and co-founded the Cypherpunk mailing list. Timothy C. May, a former Intel physicist, wrote the Crypto-Anarchist Manifesto in 1988, predicting that cryptography would fundamentally alter the nature of government interference in economic transactions. His Cyphernomicon became a foundational text for the movement. John Gilmore, an early Sun Microsystems employee and co-founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, championed the mailing list. Julian Assange, before WikiLeaks, was active in the cypherpunk community, contributing to the mailing list discussions and helping develop the Rubberhose, deniable encryption system. Cypherpunks didn't just discuss privacy, they built tools to ensure it. Some of their early contributions to digital privacy include PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, for email and files, anonymous remailers for sending information without revealing identity, digital cash protocols for anonymous electronic money, and zero-knowledge proofs for privacy without revealing data. These technologies were revolutionary and controversial. The US government initially classified strong encryption as a munition, making its export illegal. The cypherpunks fought these restrictions, both legally and by writing code that made such regulations practically unenforceable. Cypherpunks believed that privacy is not just about maintaining human dignity and autonomy, but is essential for true freedom. Without privacy, there can be no true freedom, as people self-censor and conform when they feel they are being watched. Cryptography was seen as a tool for redistributing power, creating cryptographic enclaves where freedom could flourish regardless of local laws. They were inherently skeptical of centralized systems, recognizing that centralization creates vulnerable targets for attack and corruption. They advocated for distributed systems that could function without trusted third parties. The cypherpunks' work didn't go unnoticed by authorities. Throughout the 1990s, the US government fought to maintain control over strong encryption technology, classifying it as a munition under the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, (ATAR). This period became known as the Crypto Wars. Phil Zimmermann, creator of PGP, faced a 3-year criminal investigation for exporting munitions without a license, after his encryption software spread globally. In protest, some cypherpunks tattooed encryption algorithms on their bodies or printed them on t-shirts, technically becoming munitions themselves under the law. By the late 1990s, the cypherpunks had largely won this round of the crypto wars, securing the right of Americans to use and develop strong cryptography. The cypherpunks' most ambitious goals was the creation of anonymous digital cash, money that could be transferred over digital networks with the same privacy as physical cash changing hands on the street. They understood that financial privacy was crucial for personal freedom. In a world where every transaction could be tracked, analyzed, and potentially censored, true liberty would be impossible. As Timothy May wrote, politics will be shaped by the nature of these tools and the changes they bring, not by what will be determined by the policies that govern them. The search for workable digital cash systems motivated much of cypherpunk discussions throughout the 1990s. While their early attempts didn't achieve mainstream success, they established the theoretical and practical foundations that would eventually make Bitcoin possible. Cryptographer David Chaum developed DigiCash and its eCash system, using a breakthrough called blind signatures that allowed transactions to be processed without revealing the sender's identity. Despite technical brilliance, DigiCash filed for bankruptcy in 1998 due to adoption challenges. Wei Dai's proposal described a distributed system in 1998 where untraceable pseudonymous entities could conduct transactions and enforce contracts without third parties. The system would maintain a collective ledger, a precursor to the blockchain concept. Satoshi Nakamoto would later cite Dai's innovation in the Bitcoin white paper. In 1997, Hashcash by Adam Back introduced the critical concept of proof of work, requiring computers to solve complex puzzles to process transactions. This concept would later become the bedrock of Bitcoin's consensus mechanism. In 1998-2005, BitGold by Nick Szabo, computer scientist Nick Szabo proposed BitGold, which required proof of work to create new currency units. While never implemented, it came remarkably close to Bitcoin's eventual design, leading some to speculate, incorrectly, that Szabo might be Satoshi Nakamoto. Digital objects can be copied infinitely, creating the double spending problem. How could a digital currency prevent someone from spending the same unit twice without a central authority keeping track? The Byzantine generals problem was considered unsolvable in truly decentralized systems. Creating a fair incentive system to maintain network security without central coordination was another challenge. Previous systems lacked economic incentives to create a working solution. Despite the brilliance of early digital cash proposals, these fundamental challenges prevented any system from achieving mainstream adoption. The cypherpunks had all the ingredients but hadn't yet found the recipe to combine them successfully. It would take Satoshi Nakamoto's elegant synthesis of these ideas to create a working solution. Amid the global financial crisis, an unknown figure using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto penned a white paper for the cryptography mailing list, a successor to the Cypherpunks list. Titled, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, the paper described a solution to the problems that had plagued digital cash for decades. Satoshi's genius was in weaving new cryptographic techniques. Almost everything in Bitcoin had been proposed before. The innovation was in combining existing concepts into a working system with carefully balanced incentives. A proof-of-work consensus mechanism based on Adam-Back's hash cash, a chain of cryptographically linked blocks to create an immutable ledger, and economic incentives, block rewards, to secure the network. Satoshi's writings show clear alignment with cypherpunk values: privacy, decentralization, and cryptographic trust minimization. The Bitcoin white paper cites Wei Dai's B-Money and Adam-Back's hash cash, directly acknowledging cypherpunk influences. While we may never know Satoshi's true identity, the evidence strongly suggests either direct involvement with, or at minimum, deep immersion in their ideas. Bitcoin represents the culmination of the cypherpunk vision, using cryptography to protect liberty through mathematics rather than through compromising trust. Bitcoin, beyond its significance as a technological innovation, is a philosophical statement about how money should work in the digital age. It embodies core cypherpunk values: sovereignty without permission, allowing individuals to store and transfer value without requiring permission from any authority; transparency with privacy, where the blockchain is radically transparent, anyone can verify all transactions, yet it preserves a degree of privacy through pseudonymous addresses; and trust minimization, where Bitcoin's design minimizes the need to trust any particular entity, relying instead on cryptographic proof. This embodies the cypherpunk principle that systems must minimize reliance on trust, especially when trust is systematically undermined by powerful human institutions. Cypherpunk influence extends far beyond Bitcoin. Their ideas have shaped much of our digital landscape, often in ways that aren't immediately visible. Encrypted messaging apps like Signal, Telegram, and WhatsApp all use end-to-end encryption techniques pioneered by cypherpunks. The anonymous browsing network Tor evolved from concepts first explored by cypherpunks. Smart contracts, Ethereum's programmable money, implement ideas first proposed by Nick Szabo in the 1990s. Zero-knowledge systems like Zcash implement zero-knowledge proofs, a technology championed by cypherpunks. In many ways, the original cypherpunks have seen their first major battle. Strong encryption is now ubiquitous. Bitcoin reveals a fascinating paradox. The movement was fundamentally driven by privacy concerns, yet Bitcoin created the most transparent financial system ever devised, a public ledger where every transaction is visible to all. This contradiction highlights an important nuance in cypherpunk thinking. The goal was never absolute privacy at all costs, but rather appropriate privacy within a social context. Systemic transparency could coexist with individual privacy through cryptographic techniques. As Timothy May wrote, privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. Modern cryptocurrency projects continue to wrestle with this balance. Some, like Monero and Zcash, emphasize privacy more than others. The cypherpunk origins of cryptocurrency help investors distinguish between projects that align with the foundational vision and those that simply appropriate blockchain terminology without embodying its principles. This philosophical lens can be a powerful tool for long-term investment thinking. Understanding which projects truly embrace principles of decentralization and encryption often demonstrate remarkable resilience against external pressures. Anticipating future regulatory and freedom challenges becomes clearer by understanding these origins. Familiarity with this tradition helps investors see beyond the obvious to understand the digital rights landscape before they become issues. Cultural context for volatility is influenced not just by economic factors but by ideological ones. Understanding the philosophical underpinnings of cryptocurrency can help investors avoid emotional reactions that may seem irrational from a purely financial perspective. The original cypherpunk movement seemed to fade. The mailing list became less active, and many of the technological battles appeared to have been won. But the spirit of the movement never died, it merely evolved. Bitcoin's emergence in 2009 represented a resurrection of cypherpunk ideals, bringing renewed attention to the power of cryptography to reshape social, economic, and political systems. This resurgence has continued to gain momentum. Edward Snowden's 2013 revelations about global surveillance solidified cypherpunk concerns about privacy. The rise of Web3 and decentralized applications expanded the scope of cypherpunk innovation beyond money. Increasing complexity on shared platforms has driven interest in censorship-resistant alternatives. Building systems that allow individuals to confidently create digital identities without relying on centralized authorities, a direct extension of cypherpunk principles to the realm of digital identity. Privacy-preserving computation techniques like zero-knowledge proofs, secure multi-party computation, and homomorphic encryption allow data to be processed while remaining encrypted, extending privacy through computation. AI alignment through decentralized governance, integrating artificial intelligence with human values by creating verifiable systems that ensure self-improving systems must respect them. Decentralized governance systems for collective decision-making that don't rely on central authorities, from DAOs to more sophisticated forms of cryptographic governance. These emerging frontiers may seem far removed from the original cypherpunk discussions about digital cash, but they share the same foundational principles. That cryptography can rebalance power, that systems should minimize reliance on trust, and that privacy is essential to human dignity in the digital age. Every time you use a hardware wallet to secure your cryptocurrency, you are carrying on the legacy of the cypherpunks. Every time you choose a privacy-preserving tool over a surveillance-based alternative, you support their development. Every time you support the development of decentralized technologies, you advance their vision. The Bitcoin revolution wasn't just a technological breakthrough on its own, it was the manifestation of a deeply held philosophy about how technology should serve human freedom. By understanding this philosophical foundation, we can not just historical context, but a framework for evaluating both current and future developments in the cryptocurrency space. As we navigate the evolving landscape of digital assets, the cypherpunk principles of privacy, decentralization, and individual sovereignty remain our most reliable compass.